Welcome to Marriage Minute. We're sorry that we kind of have we have pre-dimension stuff. All right, today on Marriage Minute, At His Pace is going to discuss grieving and loss and how it relates to marriage.
Yeah, that's a tough
So, what is grieving?
one.
You want me to answer that?
Yeah, why don't you answer that?
I saw that little wheel like, why is she asking me that?
Put me on the spot.
Grieving is a natural emotion that a person feels as a result of a loss. So, a lot of times we think about it in relation to losing a loved one, losing a pet, losing a family member, a sibling, those kinds of things. But it's not just physical loss that people experience, especially in marriage. You can have a physical, a health loss. You can lose your job. You can lose relationships, other relationships. You can experience loss at any level. And the whole point of what we're trying to come across to communicate to you all is that grief is natural. It is the natural response to things that happen in our life. And so what we're really focusing on today is how we deal with grieving in relationship. So Mark, how do you deal with grief best? We've experienced some losses recently. How do you think you grieve?
Grieving is for me has been very difficult. I lost my father about 3 years ago, and so I didn't really know how to grieve. Um, my experience as a young child growing up was just to internalize it and try to navigate life with that extra weight on me. And so I think the hard thing within a marriage is that if you don't learn how to communicate that and share that aspect of your emotions and your feelings and what you're going through, it could be somewhat of an isolation, and you find yourself to really be alone sometimes. And that's not a good place to be at because you're susceptible to really maybe getting some behaviors or some character issues that would really kind of put a wedge between the marriage. And so I would say open communication and just a willingness to feel vulnerable to express how you're feeling. Um, and everybody grieves differently. There's no one way that you grieve. You know, what I may do is totally different than what somebody else may do. So, um, and then you have to surround yourself with loved ones. Everybody has lost somebody. And so what I found is when my father died, there were people that I knew that had just lost their father or had lost their father within a short period of time. And so I reached out and just asked them, is this normal? You know, and once you realize that it's normal, then you don't feel as bad. And so that process is different. You know, it's a slow process for me, and it's a process where the tears are still heavy. You know, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. You know, but then the good times of those life experiences with that person that you lost become smiles and laughter. And so that's when the healing process is really working in your life. And I think it's also an aspect to really be honest with God and say, God, this hurts. I don't know what's going on. And I think God is really interested in being in our lives when it hurts the most, you know, and so for him to show himself of who he is and how he can really be there for you. So that's how I dealt with grief.
So grieving honestly can display itself in several different ways. Some people get angry, like you mentioned. Some people are sad. They are in despair. Some people rebel. They do a lot of different things. And I think we have to be sensitive, especially in marriage, like you said, to that and to the grieving process. And the only other thing that I mentioned, because I feel like Mark walked through it as best that he could. He had never experienced it on that level before, and I hadn't either. And so just being there as much as I could, but trying to hold my own emotions, I was grieving myself. How do
Yeah.
I support him in a loss that big? And I'm grieving also. But I think we had to eventually come to a point where we accepted the grieving process. In the grieving process, there is numbness or shock. Then there can be denial, then there can be anger, then there can be bargaining, and then there can be isolation, depression. And then eventually we like to come to a place of acceptance.
Yeah.
And we used to think that that was a circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. It's really more like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And so I think, especially as a married couple, you have to learn how to ride that wave together.
Yeah, and I think one of the huge things is when you told me I'm grieving too, you know, and you feel like it's just you. And when Rhonda said that to me, it's just like, okay. And so it kind of allowed me to really make sure that I was present even more so, because I wasn't the only one going through this or feeling what I was feeling by myself. Not that she understood my pain, but that she had her own pain, and so that I had to have some empathy for her as well.
So basically, in something hard like grief, grief is a response to loss, but you have to learn how to grieve at his pace.
Good night and God bless.